Welcome to Y11 Audio. I'm Alex Alvarado, and thank you for listening. This is Ypsilanti's college football podcast. You can read Ypsilanti's college football newsletter at ipsy11.com. It's Wednesday, a day later than I wanted to do my Tuesday episode, of course, but I just had a really busy weekend, just kind of pushed some things around, and I decided, you know what, for a lot of things that I have going on this week, Jacksonville State week, just decided to push everything by a day for just a moment, just for me to personally recover from, a lack of sleep that I've had, and to keep on, doing what I'm doing just a little bit later. Definitely don't like doing this recapper of a game later than usual, but it's okay. Eastern Michigan 19, UMass 17, Chris Creighton 2, Dr. Blitz 0. What a stressful one. I mean, talk about following a team that plays into very stressful situations, into stuff. Growing up a Lions fan, I know what that feeling is. It definitely didn't go away this weekend, right? Lost to Seattle at home. Stupid overtime rules. Last year, EMU had to come back down 13-0 at home in the third quarter, scored 20 points, came away with the win. Thought that was too close for comfort. 2-point win here. 2-point win. It's good to be 2-1. It's important to remember that things don't have to look the same in October and November than they do in September. Does anybody really love what we're seeing in September right now? On a lot of fronts, yes. But on some of the main ones, on some of the important ones, on some of the look at the scoreboard, see what that says ones, Eastern's falling behind. It's not performing like an offense that it should be. And it's really in the execution line. And that is kind of evident in just beating UMass by 2 at home. Great weather. Sure, some injuries are affecting parts of the roster, but execution has to be there, especially on the offense. As we move forward into Jacksonville State week, we'll probably think more about changes that'll happen, especially at the quarterback position. That's been the highlight of things. As I keep rewatching this UMass game, and then as I've rewatched the other two games that Eastern's played this year already, I'm going to give credit where it's due, and I don't like carrying water for, people that don't pay me. The play calls are there. I'd love to sit here and, just share that one video of that one little boy who's upset after a football game and be like, the players, this isn't on you. Y'all played your hearts out. It's the coach's fault. I'd love to be able to play that and just blame it on adults for doing that. But hey, man, the coaches are doing their job. The plays are there. We see it. There's just, a couple things that have to actually get done when the lights are on. The throws have to be on spot. The read options, they have to be good. They have to be smart decisions. UMass wasn't going to be a team that, unless we let it, was going to be a team that just beat you up all over the place. As much as Don Brown has improved that roster, and as much as he's added talent and found experience nationally to come to UMass in ways that weren't possible before, like the transfer portal, like the utilization of it, he's doing it at a really high level right now, considering where he's doing it at. He's getting some players from, P5 ranks. Their backup quarterback that they had to play the whole game against Eastern, he was a former starter at Western Carolina, so he's a guy that's trying to, UMass was his step up. And that guy did really well, I thought. I thought UMass didn't really surprise. I thought UMass played really well. I thought UMass played really passionately and loud. and they played tough. And I like the way that they showed resiliency down the stretch. It made for a really good game. And it really did force EMU to play better than what it was showing. And it was doing well. And I've already said enough about the offense a little. Well, we'll get back to it. Offense is lacking. It's good, but it's lacking. The defense is making plays. It made stops. It made turnovers. It started the game with 3 straight turnovers. Bennett Walker had an interception. He had a second in the second half to finish with 2, so he has 3 on the year. That's most in the nation. That's a guy that wasn't a high-ranking, player out of high school because he had joined football late. Initially went from, a little bit of junior football or, junior year football during COVID. 2021, his senior year, a little bit of JUCO ball. Found his way to Eastern. Great skills. Not a lot of experience, but he's doing it. Special teams, save for Jesus Gomez, who missed his first PAT kick of his career after 48 straight makes. Made 2 field goals, 40-45. Ryan Kingston, he's doing his thing on kickoffs. Punting, Mitch Tomasek, good as ever. 7 boots, 321 yards. A hair under 46 average. Long at 61, 3 inside the 20, a touchback. I mean, hey, special teams was doing it. Defense, they're allowing a lot of yards in some ways, yes. But they're getting stops. They're getting turnovers. They're creating havoc. They're making some mistakes. They didn't play perfectly. All those penalties, all 10 of them officially, those didn't all come because Austin Smith had a bad day throwing the football. That was a team effort. Those penalties were a team effort. UMass was, playing to Eastern's level in the penalty game too, I'll say. But Eastern let some things get away from them. There's going to be some holding calls. There's going to be some false starts. Don't love seeing them. Would rather see 0 than 2. Don't want to see any of those happen. But you got to expect those to happen. But when Kempton Shine lines up offsides, but when Chase Klein has 2 personal foul calls against him, one for a late hit against a quarterback after a touchdown pass, and then another when I can't really get a good look at it, but it looked like he was just instigating after Bennett's second interception of the game. You can't have those. You can't have those. Those ones don't need to happen. And the late hit one was pretty egregious. Like I didn't see how hard of a hit he was brought down on replay, and I didn't really get a good look at it in real time. Just like based on where I was on the field taking pictures, not in a good position at that time. But the time when the kid released the ball, and where Chase Klein was respectively, like he was 3-4 yards away before he even made contact. No need. There's some things that Eastern has to shape up on. But I'll be damned if, Eastern doesn't have some of the goods that it takes to make a run this year. But this is a really tough stretch, man. This isn't the sexiest non-conference slate. This isn't one that I don't think will really grab a lot of people's attention. It's not that Eastern is that highly prolific football team that everybody loves watching, and having your game on ESPN Plus doesn't really help. When you play Howard, the Big Ten 7th best team, maybe. UMass. And then first time FBS program, which should be really exciting, honestly. Jacksonville State. Doesn't really have a prestigious brand yet, though. Doesn't matter if it has Rich Rod or not. It's not really one that's supposed to grab a lot of attention. But these are still really tough tests. These are still teams that, even with UMass, who was without their starting quarterback, was a former 4-star out of high school, looking to prove himself, but got injured pretty early on in the year. There is it's a pretty tough list of quarterbacks. That Quinnen Williams kid in Howard, he's really experienced. Minnesota, that's a lot of hype, honestly. This one in UMass, guys that are trying to prove themselves but have experience nonetheless. Carlos Davis, to give you a stat line for the opposing quarterback, 23 of 41, one touchdown. Yes, 3 interceptions, but 340 yards, long as 67. He was still making plays out there, even like late in the stretch when it was hard to. Eastern's defense definitely got after it. But that was a tough quarterback. Jacksonville State, we'll talk about it in the next episode, not really too much today, but their quarterback is going to be, he's not going to make things easy either. So we got some non-sexy names on the slate. Last met by UMass. But they're still tough opponents. These are still really important tests. And Eastern's passing some, failing others. This is one more opportunity coming up where Eastern's got to figure out how it's going to pass its tests before the MAC slate arrives. Instantly going to start with some games against MAC West foes that should be beatable. Definitely should be beatable. But you don't want to keep finding yourselves into these 19-17 mud puddle games. For Austin, I thought, he had a lot to prove in this game. I thought he had a stat line that he wasn't proud of. And I thought that, him coming from injury and all that, I'm still not sure how much of it is a concern for him in his day-to-day football life. He looks fine out there. He doesn't look like he's limping around and all that stuff, holding his leg, anything like that. But he doesn't look, he still seems not totally ready yet. He still seems like he's second-guessing himself sometimes. It looked pretty evident pretty early on in the Minnesota drive, like the opening drive against Minnesota last week. I'm thinking about like an overthrow to JB Mitchell on the initial drive. It just kind of looked like he panicked a little bit. Maybe not panicked, but just flinched, blinked, whatever you want to say. Paused when he should have been throwing it. When he should have been like saying, F you, I'm going to, ride this thing out. There was a quick hesitation of, not sure, hold on. There was some of that last week. There's some of that this week. There was a sack very close to the end zone, which almost resulted in a safety. On the next play, he kind of scrambled out of it, and then Eastern ended up punting on that situation. Then there was another play to Hamza El-Zayat where, he stared him down the whole time. If he would have chosen to throw the ball a second and a half sooner, I'm sure Hamza El-Zayat would have taken it, 84 yards to the house or something like that? I think that's where it came from. There's some slight hesitation there. Remember, there was the very first pass that he had of the game, dropped by Max Reese. That wasn't Austin Smith's fault. That was a great throw. Started out pretty good. I'd say the first couple of throws, I'd say the first 5 throws, not much more than that. First few ones that he had were exactly what he wanted to do with the ball. Maybe not the result he wanted. But then, once he rolled out right to escape a blitz, had the near interception that wasn't towards the sideline. From there, things just kind of slipped apart for him. Just kind of, I don't know. There was that. And on the next drive, play action pass, perfect setup, threw it to Canoe, and it looked like the safety who came up reached his arm backwards to kind of get a hand on it. It looked like he tipped the ball, but I don't know if it came out of his hand all that well, out of Smith's hand. I don't know if he threw it well from the start. And I'm not sure that guy ever touched the ball, honestly. I think it was a duck from the start. Something's not right. There's just something when it's time to throw, when it's time to actually do it. I don't know what's going on in practices. Maybe he's, in the practice Hall of Fame. But when the lights are on, there's just a slight hesitation. Something in his body, something in his hands, something in his arms, something in his feet. I don't know what it is. But it's not ready. He's able to he's able to scramble out of situations into good gains when they could have been losses. He's good for that. But when he knows that he has to make a decision where, when to throw it, and exactly at what spot and at what time, there's enough hesitation for him to make enough bad decisions, and it's showing up. For the season, he's 41 of 74, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 55% throwing, 403 yards, 134 passing yards a game. Not that that's a real one that everyone pays attention to, but on average, not making a lot of noise through the air. Through his legs, you might say, hey, at first glance, he's doing pretty good. 15 official carries, 60 net yards, 4 per average. There's some sacks mixed in there, of course. But yeah, he had the scramble that, against Howard that was really good. He had a scramble against UMass that was really good. He's a pretty good runner. However, in the read option game, which against UMass, there were at least 19 read option plays called, my count. I'm not going to ask you how many of them do you think that were good decisions, bad decisions on his part. Because to one end, it's almost irrelevant, because I have to ask it this way. Read options, where he has the choice to hand it off or keep it himself and run it. How many times do you think he kept it and ran it? Now, maybe I have the number of how many read option plays called. I'm pretty sure I'm on the green with that at least. But I know I'm like hitting a hole in one when I say that he kept the ball 0 times. His rushes came from scrambles and sacks. And at some point, if you're a smart defensive player, which you're going to have to be if you play for Don Brown, and if you're studying how Austin Smith does his read option plays leading up to this game, and you see that this kid never keeps the ball, he always hands it off. It does not matter how many guys are in the box. He is predetermined. It's predetermined in his eyes that the running back's going to get the ball. Like, the running back keeping the ball is always going to be the best option. Yeah, I wouldn't respect it either. I saw UMass defenders just blatantly not respect it, and maybe showed a little bit more respect in the second half, but it was very clear that they never ever thought for a second that number 4 was going to keep the ball when that would have been the right choice. When sometimes there were times where Eastern even gave him an extra option man to pitch to if he would have kept the ball and ran it, and would have won the numbers game on those plays. He is a good athlete with his legs. I do trust him when he has the ball in his hands to, make some long, fast strides, make good plays downfield in a hurry, if he so chooses to. But that's only if he so chooses to. He doesn't choose that a lot. He doesn't choose it enough, I don't think. And I got to rewind myself. I don't know how much of that has to do with his injury history. I really don't. I'm starting to think a little bit. And the read option can be super duper effective, obviously. That's where, Jalen got that really long touchdown run. That's where, I'm sorry to bring it up now, Samson Evans got the really long run, which didn't result in a touchdown. Resulted in a touchback. That sucked to see. But my takeaway from that's still an effective play to run. Okay? They have to keep that going. We can look at completion percentage and passing and see, this player is or isn't a good decision maker. It's hard to glean that from the box score, how they're doing in the read option game. Austin Smith just wasn't doing it, man. Just blatantly gave the ball away a lot. And even with all that, Samson Evans averaged 11.1 yards per carry. Jalen Jackson 6.9 per carry. Austin 11.2 for him. He did pretty well. But there's so many plays, there were so many yards just left on the field. And when you look at the score of 17 for UMass, 19 for Eastern Michigan, and think, how did EMU only come away with, a 2-point win? It's plays like that. It's not just, the touchdowns wiped off the board. It's not just the fumble at the end zone. It's these, 2-yard carries that could have been 7. It's all of those. And there were, when I say 0 for 19, I really do mean that. Again, some of those were good decisions, but not all of them. Definitely not all of them were good decisions. And so, yeah, I would expect to see, at some point very soon, if Smith doesn't improve as a passer, sure, he's definitely not going to see the field, or he's going to be taken off pretty soon. If he doesn't improve there, for sure. Oh, and there was another deep pass I forgot about this play. There's a deep pass, about 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It's like 3rd and 12 situation. 50-yard pass to Tanner Canoe goes incomplete. Tanner Canoe was in full uniform before the play, but as the pass was coming down, his shoulder pad got ripped out by the defensive back, and no flag was called. So that really sucked to see in real time. That's definitely an opportunity where that's not the fault of EMU's offense. That's the refs not doing their part either. But still, too close for comfort. Penalties are part of the reason. Penalties wiped off some touchdowns. Bad quarterback play, that definitely helped. But don't forget about the read option game. Don't forget about, what is his effectiveness there, because, and it really is his job to keep the ball sometimes, legitimately keep the ball, make options, read and react. Because UMass really did cheat a lot. And if Jacksonville State's going to be cheating a lot too, I don't know. Why would I assume that Austin Smith's going to just start running the ball more? I don't know. Like, Eastern doesn't run like a super complicated offense. It really does run simple concepts, does some motion a little bit, but it's all about high execution. And the execution's just not there. The play calling's there. I think there's talent around a lot of different spots. I think special teams hitting its marks. Defense, like I said, is playing really well. Micah Coleman's off to a great start. A couple stats really quickly, easy ones that everybody loves. Against UMass, 10 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. That's a good day. Like, just looking at 3 simple stats, just like an old baseball man would, that's a good day for the defense. It's a really good slugging percentage. But the defense can't stay on the field the whole time. That's the big thing, What the quarterback play is causing is that this defense, their legs are about to fall off. They've got some injuries across that D line. Its most important position of the group, or its most important group, I think, when it comes to applying pressure. They're hurting on the interior. At this point last year, they were hurting on the interior, and we didn't like how things were going. This year, the defense is off to a good start, but you're on the field too long. You guys got to get off. It's not your fault. You guys are doing your part. You're forcing the offense off the field. Believe me, we all see it. Offense just has to execute, and it's not just the quarterback. It is a team effort. Some changes need to be had. We'll probably see a quarterback change at some point. I don't know if Eastern, and we'll talk about it next episode, I don't know if Eastern's going to start with a new quarterback. I don't know if Eastern's going to let Forrest start and then let Ike or Cameron come in during the game. We'll see what happens when that time comes. But this game showed, one way or another, the execution needs to start getting there. It needs to force execution. It can't just wait for explosive plays to happen. The explosive play rate over the last 3 games for Eastern's offense, 2% against Howard, 2% against Minnesota, 4% against UMass. That's not going to do it. That's not championship level football. And thank you for listening to another episode of Y11 Audio. If you like what I do, hit subscribe. If you love what I do, all I ask for is $6 a month, and you can get it all at ipsy11.com. I'm Alex Alvarado, and thanks again.